So you're on your journey to learn some music theory and you're a guitar player. So where do you start? Well, one of the things I teach my students to build a good foundation of theory is an exercise of playing major scales with the major key. So what do I mean? I mean playing all of the triad chords in that key. So the exercise would be this. You would learn the major scale in the open position. Be able to play it forward and backwards with, of course, the correct fingers. And then you would memorize the scale notes. So C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. Once you can do that, you would now couple it with the chords, the triad chords in the key of C. And those would be C, D minor, E minor, F major, G major, A minor, B diminished, and then finally back to C again. So there's one chord per note in the major scale, and it's built off of a process called stacked thirds, which we're not going to cover in this lesson. But the exercise is really just memorize the scale, memorize that chord pattern. So all the chords I just played, they're also listed in the PDF. So if you're watching this on YouTube, just go to the description and there'll be a link to the blog which has the PDF of all the keys that we're going to cover. So now you got the key of C under control and you have it memorized. The next thing you're going to do is you're going to go to the key of G. The key of G, we're going to use a movable major scale, and it looks like this. So that's the first octave. That's all you really need to do this exercise, but if you want, you can just learn the rest of the octave. So memorize the pattern. Make sure you can play it forward and backwards. And then memorize the scale notes. And of course, as you're playing through the previous key, the key of C, and this key, the key of G, say out loud or in your head the notes. So G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G. And it's important to make sure that you're actually saying it to yourself, to be testing yourself and just really exercising the fact that you're going to be memorizing these notes. So there's one chord per note in the scale. So that's going to give us G major, A minor, B minor, C major, D major, E minor, and F sharp diminished. So there's an order that you're going to start to see, a pattern you're going to start to see emerge. And every major key, the chord type, so is it a major chord or a minor chord or a diminished chord, it always happens in the same pattern. The first chord's always major, the last chord's always diminished. It's the ones in the middle that are harder to memorize, but there's a pattern. So major, minor, minor, major, major, minor, diminished. All major keys are going to have their chords fall in that order. So now you know two keys. You know the key of C major and you know the key of G major. Well, the exercise I bring my students through would be to have them every week start with the key of C, repeat the scale and the scale notes to me, and then do the same thing with the chords along with repeating the chord names. Move on to the next key, and then if they got those two keys down, we add a third key. And the third key is going to be the key of D major. So we're going to use that same movable major scale that we used for the key of G, but we're just going to plant it on the guitar up here on 10 where there's a D note, and we play that same scale shape. Make sure you can play it forward and backwards. And then memorize the notes. So we have D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C sharp, and D. And this key has two sharps and the previous key had one sharp. So there is one chord per note in the scale, so that'll give us D major, E minor, F sharp minor, G major, A major, B minor, and C sharp diminished. So now you have 3 keys memorized. And every time you do this exercise, which should be every time you practice the guitar, every time you sit down and have like serious practice, you should do this, and you should always start with the key of C first, just to make sure that you've actually retained what you had previously memorized. So once you get those 3 down, we're going to move to the key of A major. And we're going to take that same movable scale, but we're just going to start here on 5. Make sure you can play it forward and backwards. And then memorize the notes. So A, B, C sharp, D, E, F sharp, G sharp, and A. Now for the triad chords, we're going to have A major, B minor, C sharp minor, D major, E major, F sharp minor, G sharp diminished, and then finally A. So we have 1 key left, and what we're doing is we're doing 5 keys. We're doing the C, which is an all natural key, and then we're doing the 4 designated sharp keys. And the 4 designated sharp keys are the keys that you could only use sharps on, and that's the key of G, the key of G, the key of A, and the key of E major, which we're going to do right now. Now for the key of E major, we're not going to use the same movable scale. We could. In fact, we can play all 12 major scales that way. But with the key of E major, it puts us in a weird spot all the way up here. We could do it, but it's not very useful for us to learn an E major scale up there. It's more practical to play it in the open position, to start off with anyways. So here's what the E major scale is going to look like. So we have E, F sharp, G sharp, A, B, C sharp, D sharp, and then E again. So here are all the chords in the key of E major. E major, F sharp minor, G sharp minor, A major, B major. This might be your first time encountering this bar chord. And in this bar chord, the ring finger is doing the barring. C sharp minor, D sharp diminished, and then back to E. So it's quite a lot of work to memorize these keys. But once you memorize these 5 keys, actually probably by the time you get to the key of D or the key of A, you'll already notice a lot of patterns that are emerging, and each key that you memorize will get so much easier to do. There are 12 major keys to memorize, and we've just covered 5 of them. The next lesson will cover the 4 designated flat keys, which is going to be the key of F, the key of B flat, the key of E flat, and the key of A flat. And then we'll move on eventually to the relative minor. Make sure you put the work in, make sure that this becomes part of your regular practice routine. It's not easy to memorize these keys, but they pay off big time, and they create a really, really good foundation for more advanced theory.